Wow, it was an interesting 2-minute practice that I have a lot of feelings about, and I am super curious how this is gonna go when we explore. As we do, we reflect on, what just happened this last week. Well, what happened? We're thinking about linking, making one of those link in bio pages or planning it and what have you, and, whew, I'm kind of embarrassed as far as my showing up today for that discussion. Super curious what Jerzy has to share too on today's 2-minute practice. Woo. Welcome to the 2-minute practice podcast.
Here, the hosts of the Lean Into Art podcast explore and encourage you to join us in trying all kinds of different creative activities that help us practice things related to making our art, exploring, growing in our business practice, and even trying things for a healthy lifestyle.
We'll talk about what we practiced recently, things we saw in the community, and then we highlight a new idea for us all to practice next.
2 minutes is a findable amount of time to try things. I'm Jerzy Drost, cartoonist and teaching artist.
I'm Rob Stenzinger, UX designer, interactive maker, and teaching artist.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Jerzy.
That intro sounds like this was a practice that was a little bit fraught for you.
Oh, I managed your expectations.
Okay, so I want to, before we dive in, I want to draw us back to an earlier 2-minute practice we did where we discovered it was update some marketing language on our website. I think that's what it was. It was like, look at the copy on our website about the stuff we do or make and see if it can be punched up a little bit 2 minutes ago. And I was like, it's a worthy practice. And then the practice came and I went, ooh, I can't summon the strength to do this. I open up my teaching page on my website and I'm like, there's a lot here. And there's a lot that's out of date. And I just didn't do it. So we sort of like put a circle around that saying like, okay, there's ones where if there's not a lot of, how did we phrase it? I forget how we phrased it, but we were talking about like if we can't find the motivation for it or if there's other kinds of internal frictions that arise out of doing it. If it becomes, I think you said emotionally expensive to do the job or do the practice, I should say.
There's just something about that practice that doesn't have as natural of a pull. It doesn't feel as, intrinsically motivating to go about. And not that it has to be, because you can think, well, overall, the practice of practicing, I'm actually really enthusiastic about it, right? And it's, hey, 2 minutes is a findable amount of time, and as I think this all the time as I go about my life, where I'm like, I'm waiting for something to finish on the stove. 2 minutes is a findable amount of time. I'm scrolling through some emails. 2 minutes is a findable amount of time. Like all these, I notice it and I love the practice, and I bombed this practice. Just wow. Bomb. I enthusiastically and naively thought, yeah, okay, this is gonna work, right? Because we're bravely, in a way, right? Because when you take on a task where it has the friction and stuff, I think you're trying to do something that part of you doesn't necessarily want to do, in a way, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You're purposefully causing that friction for yourself, and okay. How interesting. And the infrastructure of the practice of practicing, and that it's inexpensive to do just 2 minutes of it, right? So why not? I thought, this is one of those. We definitely found another one, like the, taking a look at editing our, like marketing microcopy type stuff, right? Like, ooh, this is going to be, but no, it's going to work, no problem. And it didn't, like, for me. So I felt great, great ambiguity, puzzling friction, because I recently did create a links page for my work, and every time I went to look at this task, I thought, I just did that. I need to do other things, and I'm like, but it could be better. This. Just come up with new ideas. This practice has all kinds of avenues to explore. And I thought, Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Visuals. Yeah. Make it visual. It'd be fine. Look at it. I'm like, always something else that on my to-do list where I'll have uh lists that I come up with earlier in the week, but then I like to use like what's like I will write stuff down in the next, for the next little hour or two or this work day, and have a fresh connection to this, my to-dos. And always something else besides the 2-minute practice was far more calling my attention.
So yeah, I don't know if we adequately described what the practice actually was, but for those who are new to the project, we challenged ourselves to update our links page in some kind of, in my case, I said, I'm going to add a more visual feeling to it. So instead of a list of links, I'm going to add some kind of images to give you a sense of what you're about to click on. And I remember when I proposed it, Rob was like, this one feels like it could be loaded. We're going to see how this one goes. So also bonus points to Rob for like adequately anticipating what his experience was going to be with it. A lot of self-knowledge was in that moment. and for my own part, I felt the same kind of like, I want to do it, but I know this is a thing that I'm going to feel like is a drag to do. I'm going to feel other things are more pressing or interesting problems to solve than make a tiled link system on my links page, right? So
Tiled link system. This is a new take on it. Makes me
well,
almost tempted to try it again, but okay.
Well, this is what I did.
You do a tiled link system? No
Well,
way.
I just came up. Okay. I did. How many did I get done? I got 10 done. It was almost 14 sessions. I did one almost every day because some of these took multiple sessions, which was a bummer. Some were like they were done very quickly. Some I went back and went, nope, that's no good. I got to redo it. So I went into this thinking, I sort of like tried to pep talk myself and go like, look, you just open up Canva, drop in a few elements, export it, boom, you got a tile, put it on your webpage, right? I found quickly that, oh, and by the way, I too started with a pre-existing links page. I made a page that looked like this, where I just had links to everything that I make, right? The page it's at jdros.com/links, and it just says everything I make. It had a comics section, a podcast section, and a live stream section, right? So one of the frictions I ran into was knowing where the source files were. Like finding the art resource that I needed. So like the Baron von Bear in the Two-Face statue, I just barely eked that one out in time because once I cropped it to 720 by 1280 or 1280 by 720, I realized, oh, this is a very vertical image. I got to open up the original CSP file so I can get that logo on its own layer, move it, recrop it. And then I discovered, oh, Canva's not helpful to me now. Canva is actually an impediment because now I have to export the logo as a transparent layered PNG file. It's adding more steps. It's slowing me down. Okay, I guess I'm staying in Clip Studio Paint. So a lot of these got made in Clip Studio Paint instead of Canva because, like in the case of the Amazon Academy tile that we see there, all those kids were in their own layer folders. So it was easy to move them around, but it made zero sense to export them each as a transparent ping, upload them to Canva, and then rearrange them there. Why not just do it right here in Clip Studio Paint, right? And in the case of the Hello Kitty cover that I've got there, it was just like, okay, open Canva, make a pink background, drop in the art, boom. So, and this was another way in which I had a cheat already in mind is that I have on my website, let me go to Buy My Books. I already had something like this in the works in that I have a whole section of all the books you can buy from me. So I had all these images in a folder, right? So there's already a pre-existing folder with all these images. However, because I wanted to do a tiled system where it's more like 16 by 9 aspect ratio, it did lead to, like, the Warren Commission report was, I think that was a multi-session one where I had to like dig through all of my pages of the Warren Commission report to find a page that represents what the story is about that I could put next to the cover. So you're not just looking at the cover like the Hello Kitty one with like pink bars on it, right? Other ones were already done. The Science Comics Rockets, that was a introduction slide from when I was on book tour with Anne. So I was like, resize, done. That was done in like 30 seconds. The Nightmare Pro Wrestling Belly, the Beast tile, and the RoboForce tiles were also ones that I made for a email newsletter. Those were already done. Boom, boom. All right, I got those done in one session. So, but Boulder and Fleet Mining for Trouble, I had to open up a file, find the original layered CSP file, rearrange all the elements in such a way, crop it. And so that was a multi-session one. Pickles and Taft was 2 sessions because I had to track down the original mini comic cover layered in Photoshop, pull apart the art, and recombobulate it that way. So I think that was, I want to say that was 3 sessions because 2 minutes ago. So it looks like I got a lot done, but it was kind of maddening that it's like, 2 minutes is up and I only just found the file. Okay, well, I guess my next 2-minute session is where I pull it apart. Okay, I'm not quite done. Still got to get that logo fixed. All right, that'll be the next 2-minute practice. and getting them uploaded to the WordPress install and update the page each time. That was another part. I included that in the 2 minutes. So that's why it took almost every day to do 10 tiles. So what does that shake out to? 14 sessions of 2 minutes ago. That's 28 minutes.
Yeah, 20.
Yeah,
that's a lot. That's pretty productive. You got some very very detailed graphic tiles for 10 different ones. I mean, that's interesting. Where so did you have a vision in your head before you went about this? So you I mean, because to me it's like, well, you have the aspect ratio of like very graphically filled visual representations of all these different works. Like this, is that how you, like a detailed picture you had at the start, or did that form early? Or
so these are the design constraints I started with, just to make this thing manageable and also to add a little bit more intrinsic motivation, because like I knew a lot of this had to do with getting grumpy Jerzy off of the couch, metaphorically speaking, and do the hard work of creating good marketing materials for himself. Because he'd much rather be sketching in a sketchbook for his upcoming graphic novel or working on some notes for a class that he's teaching. Anyway, so I said, well, what if I made them the aspect ratio and size, so 1280 by 720 pixels, so that they can also be slides for presentations. I'll get double use out of these. There will be tiles on my website. My website has the responsive design thing, so if you resize it on your phone, each one of those tiles will fill up. They're not too vertical, so you can see more than one on a phone if you're scrolling through. That was another part of my thinking. And like I said, it could be for my links page, and I have these in a folder now that I could easily drop into a slide deck if I'm doing a school visit and people say, what books have you made? Here you go. Boom, 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 boom. The designs were largely, like the interior designs of each tile were largely designed by panic. It was like, I don't have time to think about this. So what do I have that's ready? So in the case of, and I'll go back to screen share, in the case of this Captain Seriously one in the upper right, those character designs were a row on the back cover of every issue printed. So every cover has the row of the good guys, row of the villains on the top and bottom, and then has the logo in the middle. Like, so it's basically like about the book is on the back, right? So I had them already set in a folder in that configuration, lined up in that way. So it's like, grab that folder, put it here in the the CSP file. Okay, grab the logo, put it in the CSP file. Okay, grab the background burst, put it in the CSP file, export it, get it on the website. So I didn't think about the design beyond that. What do I have that I can just drop in here right now? Amazon Academy, I had a postcard that I worked on with Dan Mishkin when we were trying to promote the book. And I did character designs of all the characters. It was already in the postcard. I opened up the postcard, dragged and dropped the elements into the 1280 by 720p template, export. So that was, and the same case of the Warren Commission report was like, let me just look through the pages. Okay, here's a 2-page spread where we see Kennedy, we see the gunshots, we see people upset. That's what it's about, that fateful day in 1963. I'll put that next to the cover. I did not go, okay, I'm going to look at 10 covers and, do an A/B test. It's like, what can I get done now? So I guess my takeaway is that I think I walked away with the sense of, okay, I have proven to myself that I can get good enough. I can get to good enough relatively quickly and painlessly if I just, if I can find enough internal tricks, like for instance, the double duty of it, I can use them as a slide deck. Cool. Now I'm actually creating other resources for down the road. I'm helping out future Jerzy, but also making it to where if I sat down and thought a lot about the designs of each of these tiles, I probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean that's to add to that circumstance some detail of like, well, why? Because that's where I was, right? Where I thought, how can I make this list of links, visual? Maybe other things will come to mind too, but then how do I make them visual? But why am I making them visual? And this is where I found ambiguity, where this 2-minute practice was one of those things that was on my mind often, but then when I sat to do it, I never solved the things that were puzzling me, right? Like creating more things to, for someone to look at and select among, right? Because okay, you have a list of, well, text descriptions that link to something. Maybe you have categories, so now you've chunked information for people to make, and if hopefully a simple decision, right? So you're not adding friction to the person who's their task when they're coming to your links page to make use of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was puzzling out, like, how can I add visual without adding cognitive load? How could I, you know, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So what, would I go, could I just add like a symbol to the category, right? And then let people scan the page quickly visually, this list of links, to get to an area to then choose something next. And anyway, I mean that and then I would probably then it's like, do I pick a representative work where that thumbnail is something for all the things in the category, or do I create a doodle or an icon, and here you go. And then that would be like, as I'm taking out the kitchen trash or something, or sort dealing with recycling, or I'm doing a chore and thinking like, 2-minute practice, come on, you got to get on it. What's your deal? And I would start thinking like, well, what is my deal? It's an interesting puzzle. What am I going to do with this, and how is it going to affect the people that come to the page to use the links to do, right? And then off
yeah,
I went,
yeah.
these different things. And worth highlighting the nature of the friction there. And
That yes, that is definitely that is worth thinking about, in that I think your approach was probably the most healthful and service driven approach. My approach was get to first draft, right? That's basically where I put myself. It said, like, you're not gonna have anything really lovely and with like a wonderful design to it, but can you grab some resources of stuff that you've already made, readjust it so that it's just a slightly more visual? Than, is it better than a list of links? That's basically all I was trying to do, like level up one step. But you're right, like this is by no means what I would call a hub. And the only thing I would think of is, in terms of user experience, was like the decision to make them 16:9 meant that, like, when I put them on a phone, right,
mm-hmm.
you could see more than one at a time, and the implication to scroll is there from the start. That was the only bit of user experience I
That format
considered.
has a lot of strength to it, and it has strength of, well, reuse for slides and stuff, but then the composition, each of those compositions is doing the job of a cover, right? I mean, you're trying to, cause someone to explore and have questions about that thing, that then, well, to answer the what you're thinking about, click on it, and off you go, right?
Mm,
um it's an inviting title.
yeah.
And 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 that makes a lot of sense. And I have taken that approach. Like, I needed, like, for some reason on my Gumroad page, it was the all the preview art I had for all of my stuff there it didn't look great, and I don't know why, because basically there's a, it's almost like a 3:4 aspect ratio that
Hmm.
looks better in their how they laid out their webpage, right? Um, and so my different things that had the 16:9 ratio as preview images looked odd with these not great croppings in all this, and I'm like, "Wow, if someone was trying to choose among this, they can't read the full title of the thing." And odd other croppings and with art and stuff. So anyway, um, yeah, I don't, so I have also recently tackled a similar thing where it's like, all right, I have a quick marketing task. Let's cycle through these things, make some thumbnails and get it done. But oh, yeah, and it's uh, yeah, I don't know. And so even though like familiar, approachable, what have you, and but when I went to then apply the same thing to my own links, um, yeah, I didn't get past that ambiguity. So
Hmm. Hmm. I feel like we should, after a break, we can dig into this idea of how we reckon with this kind of ambiguity and how we can approach it going forward with future practices and maybe choose our next practice. What do you think?
I think that sounds fantastic.
All right.
Reckoning with the ambiguity.
That does sound a little bit grim, doesn't it? It didn't mean for
That
us to
sounds
like.
like a fantastic album title or like a whole prog band name. Like, like you're promising a lot with that title. So I look forward to seeing how we fulfill it.
So join us in a couple minutes where we're going to reckon with ambiguity. So if this is helping you think and do useful creative work, by the way, hit the music. If this is helping you think and do creative, useful work, a great way to help the show is support us on Patreon. Patreon.com/leanintoart is the website. And you can support us for as little as $1 a month, or you can join the Lean Into Art monthly lab for the introductory price of $10 per month. Or you can interact with the things that we make. So the thing that I make that I hope you'll check out is Baron von Bear and the Case of the Two-Faced Statue. Baron von Bear, expert in the occult, never once wanted to be an adventurer. But when years of hard work are demolished along with the ancient stone guardian that rendered harmless his collection of dangerous magical objects, he will have to enter the fray at last. And he will learn to his dismay that those objects were not at all what he believed. Go to Baron von Bear to join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or subscribe to my mailing list for free to get some exclusive looks at the process of making my next middle grade graphic novel. Rob?
Well, I make a game called Guitar Fretter. Go to guitarfretter.com and you'll be brought to this landing page, and that has the it's a game to make a fun arcade puzzle experience for memorizing the note positions on a guitar fretboard. And you do some light friendly battle with these creatures that have the notes, and you've got the guitar fretboard for 4 and 5 string bass, 6 and 7 string guitar, and it works on Android, iOS, Mac, and Windows. Go to guitarfretter.com and get your copy today. When in a few weeks, you'll then get the upgrade to it as well that I'm working on, not as we speak, but I am also working. Guitarfretter.com.
Guitarfretter.com. Okay, so let's play some music to get us to the next part. Now we're in the next part of the show. And so this is the part where, as I said, we're going to reckon with ambiguity and then maybe pick another practice. I just feel like there's got to be something you're thinking about, Rob, in having experienced that ambiguity. Like, what if we were to do, I'm not saying we're going to, but if we were to do another practice like this? Because I think that this is, there are, like, I did not have an easy time of this one, right? Like, I feel like I got a lot done, but it did have a cost. In that the 2 minutes were more intense this time than they were when we practiced balancing or when we do like sticky note drawing, so there's got to be some way to, when we feel that ambiguity, some kind of strategies that we can lean on to help us make the ambiguity more manageable. What are you thinking about on that? Do you have any reflections or thoughts after this 2-week experience?
I think it's a little bit of a I mean it's a are you taking up you have a practice. You are personally individually engaged with this practice. That's a bit of the assumption of it, right? And there are all kinds of contexts that you can encounter ambiguities and stuff, right? But because it's so isolated, I think it has a fragility that like for instance, if you have an appointment to meet with someone who's training you on something, or you're going to a class, or if it's that's less fragile because you've made a commitment, you have an extra investment, higher cost, what have you, to like pull you along through the steps to make the thing happen. So you can I that's a casual observation about like, well, what would they like why would the ambiguity cause it to not happen? And the fragility, meaning like, is how, I don't know, how safe, durable, reliable, consistent is making this commitment and then following through, kind of thing, right? And for some practices it's not that hard because um when you encounter like no friction, and it's it's easy, familiar, encouraging, all that stuff. You're not bumping into stuff that holds you back in any way, right? And then if something is holding you back, what is going to prop you up? And I think other infrastructure can help with that, where if it is a social commitment, if it is a other investment, what have you. But that's one of the things about this as a format, that it would have a probably pretty permanent weakness against this kind of thing, because it isn't propped up. It's just you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's
What do you
also,
think?
well, as I'm thinking about that, you're absolutely right. It's just you. So how do you like? I think about, actually, this is where we could talk about like gameful design too, right? Is like
Mhm.
this whole idea of like just the right amount of challenge is like what keeps you playing a game. And I use this metaphor with my students all the time. Like if you loaded up Fortnite and it said congratulations, you just won out against everybody and you didn't do anything. You'd never play the game again, right? It's counterintuitive, but the challenge, the right amount of challenge, is what makes it engaging. It being just hard enough, but not too hard, right? And I
Mhm.
think about that with these practices is like, how can I frame this for myself so it doesn't feel like it's trivial activity? We're gonna draw, like when we've done some like drawing lines in the past, I've tried to find ways to enhance the activity for myself so that it feels there's some other layer beyond just drawing a line. What else can I discover? How can I turn drawing a line for 2 minutes at a time into something more for myself? Or like meditative drawing. Okay, I'm going to draw meditatively for 2 minutes, but the whole purpose is to meditate, right?
Mhm.
So, but the act itself, if it's too simple, I'm not really that interested in doing it. It doesn't feel like it's really amounting to anything. Not that it has to amount to much, but if I can get it to amount to just enough. And then conversely, if it's too hard, it's like, okay, how can I just take, a paring knife and peel off one little tiny piece of this giant cloud of ambiguity and just do that, with the understanding that if I do that enough, it's going to add up to more. It's going to give me more of, like you said, something to prop me up so that when I take on more of that ambiguity, I have at least the evidence behind me that I can do it, right? Or I have something I learned from that experience that I can bring in for more context when I take on more of that ambiguity. So it's less ambiguous. That's at least the way I've been doing some of these. And I think when we did that marketing one, I didn't walk in like that. I didn't do the pre-thinking of, okay, I'm going to look at my marketing copy. And then I get there and I go, ooh, there's a lot of marketing copy here. It's like, okay, well, if I would have had the presence of mind to say like, well, let's change it. Let's change a verb. Let's change a verb. Boom, start there. And then
Pick
then
one
it's,
sentence.
yep. Yep. And I didn't do it. So
Hmm.
yeah, I feel like that's a more intuitive way than standing back and looking at the big picture. Like you were thinking very systemically when you were talking about your page. Like I want to think about like how might I use what would happen if I took this approach and thinking about icons, iconographic imagery versus screen caps or whatever. Um, when I thought of a hub, I thought not of a list, but I thought of something circular, something that's actually a hub. What if it was something where there were drawers that actually came out of a hub? Well, I can't do that in 2 minutes at a go. What can I do? Well, I can do a grid of tiles at least.
Hmm.
So I don't know I don't know if what I shared there adds up to anything outside of a coping
I think
strategy
so.
that I've come. Okay.
So let me see if this aligns or fits somewhat with your coping strategy. You've got the playful side of things, the overall framing of is something naturally interesting or nourishing or useful where it amounts to something, not doesn't have to be too much, what have you. The point is to practice, not necessarily to produce. But right, practices can have that too. Um, if somehow none of that is clicking or connecting, and then and you have the ambiguity, now you're in the stage of um, you could potentially get stuck and trapped here. And I don't think I did an analysis paralysis stuff to myself where I have done that before. Certainly, I'm pretty good at it. Stopping progression by sitting there thinking forever. But like, you can, if it's unnameable, if the ambiguity is not specific, then it's undefeatable in my opinion. So if you can name it, if you name some things about it, and if there's a bunch of names, then okay. Like you've listed some things now where in a way you're sort of reframing potential ways to re-engage with the practice that you chose to care about, right? But you have to name some stuff about it that could turn it into less ambiguous, like what is frustrating, what like
Yeah.
describe what's stuck, describe what you want, but put some words down, and then pick one. So pick something and recommit, right? So um, there you go. Name some things, pick one, recommit. Could be a way to take what was tough to really get your mind wrapped around and get it specific enough where it's a- and then when you look back at whatever you ended up doing, it's part of the idea of the practicing is that it's better to have done something, and now you have some new experience to relate to, and that in itself is a worthwhile learning process.
That's good. That's good. I think you capped it off, Rob. Uh, so what do you want to do next? What are you feeling like?
Well, uh could try to test if I learned anything by picking another difficult practice.
That's an
Or go
interesting
gentle.
idea. Because I remember the last time this happened, we went gentle. We were like, let's do something that's
Mhm.
like super fun to do. Um, but I'm open to either.
Okay, let's do super fun. Because having uh the feeling of succeeding in the exploration of practice, I think is important to reward, right? And not to say like, well, that wasn't great. Let's do it 10 times more. Um, so um, rewarding practices come from I think like probably three main buckets overall, right?
Hmm.
The I think we have like sort of like physical ergonomic practice type stuff. We've got visual practice and sometimes making noise. Maybe I don't know if that's just a strong one. That's a hot and cold one. Sometimes it goes super great, other times not so great. But I guess maybe it's just the two. What do you think? Is there another category that's like practice, 2 minute practice, happy place?
Minute practice happy place. Well, yeah, I know when it comes to making noise, that's something where it's like you've got all the equipment in the world behind you to just like go boop, I'm ready to make noise. So that one feels like there's very little friction. Anything where we're doing some kind of drawing activity is always super easy for me. I have everything I need on my personal time at all times to do drawing. The physical one, we just did one.
Mhm.
Um, so if I were to flip a coin, it would be between making noise and doing something visual.
Um, so we've done things like algorithmic drawing, um, reflective drawing, uh, intuitive emotional drawing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making up categories. Because of, yeah, all kinds of things. Uh, Maybe it'd be nice to do it, some other resources related to 2-minute practice. By the way, community, feel free to chime in. Not
True.
saying we're doing product development, but I'm also not saying. Anyway, um, fishing. So, how about, what would be an interesting visual thing, but like, that got a different, a different angle to it, right?
So I'm anticipating one that is both visual, which sounds like it'd be easy, but it feels like it's laden and fraught similarly to what we just did.
Uh-oh.
In that I just wonder about, like, I almost never take pictures of myself. Like, I look through my Google Photos and there are hundreds and hundreds of pictures of my friends and my cats and my wife, but not of me. And I was thinking about this recently because I did an Instagram post about a blood drive that was happening here in Columbus, and I left it up for one day and then deleted it. Right? I was like, okay, it served its purpose. I was alerting people to the blood drive, and now that picture goes away. And it's just there's something I find a little bit. I feel some cognitive dissonance about the idea of putting, which is weird, right? Because here I am on video, right? But the video has a context. Yeah.
Yeah.
The video has a context and a.
Yeah, it is quite different. Like, we're hearing your voice. It's like you're showing up as more of you, right?
Right. So I just wonder what would happen in my head if I actually took pictures of myself 2 minutes at a go, like, just not put it on like what do they call that, burst mode, but like actually like try to take some pictures of myself and see what that feels like for 2 minutes. And
Take
I don't
1,000 pictures of yourself 2
No.
minutes at a time.
No, my wife and I share our Google Photos bucket. She'd be like, "What are you doing?" But I don't know. Is there a practice in there? It's just like I wonder if, like, because here's the thing: I wouldn't have to share it with anybody. I'd be doing it for the purpose of the practice. Yeah,
It's another kind of journaling. This is, I mean, a lot of folks have, this. This is well trodden territory. It's the whole, we're in in overlapping generations of feeling more and less comfortable with personal information and sharing, and then selfies, and you
mm-hmm.
know having big positions, with big feelings about like that kind of media and stuff, right? And I'm not like a frequent selfie person either. I'll do a selfie once in a while, especially if I have a clever funny moment. I have no friction at all to selfie. I've got a goofy hat and I'm looking a little bit dressed up. Boom, that's going online. Not taking it down. Search my Instagram, you'll know what I'm talking about. But like, it's yeah, I like this. I mean, it's funny because it's clever. You're a clever devil. Because it's like we do the practices in the spirit of well, I mean, it's personal professional development hybrid stuff, right? We're looking to grow and evolve and learn and find things that have a challenging nature to them, but like nothing that's harsh and unapproachable and unuseful and whatever. I mean, anyway, you nailed it. It's clever. I love it. Like, so do some selfies, and in a way, you're doing some journaling because there's all kinds of context around it.
Yeah, there really is. Yeah, and I also think about like some of these people who take a picture of themselves every day on their birthday, and they do that for like 10, 15 years at a go. And like, wow, that becomes such a cool document. And I wish I would have done it. But if you would have asked me 15 years ago to start doing that, I'd be like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not a narcissist. It's not narcissistic to tell your story, young Jerzy. Calm down.
It's not. It's okay to see and be uncomfortable with what have you, but there are more angles to it than just the whole self-absorbed. This isn't. We're trying to let's make a pile of
duck faces.
I don't know. Let's get a bunch of artists to become Instagram influencers by finally getting that encouragement they need to just go wild and get all that skill you can with making those good selfies. And but at
Now,
the same time, it's that is really something useful and interesting, and it's valid. And honestly, if you're doing it and you're facing friction, that's okay. And natural. Like people have stresses and concern culturally, personally, emotional concerns about, I don't know, dysmorphia, I mean, what have you. Like, pick a different practice, all by all means, if this isn't a good fit. But if it has that tempting thing to it,
yeah,
and you can find a context
if I
that
were to
works
back
for
away,
you.
if I were to back away and describe the principle behind what I was describing, or what I was processing as I came up with this, I identified something where I noticed that I have a general unexamined reluctance to do the activity, and it takes almost no effort to do it. It's something that it doesn't take much effort. I don't like doing it, and I don't know why. But it's something I notice as a pattern that I resist I not even resist. There's nothing to resist. It doesn't even occur to me to take my own picture. Let's do that for 2 minutes. See how it feels. How do I encounter that when I ask myself to do it repeatedly? So it doesn't have to be taking a picture. Just like, do you notice anything in your behavior as an artist, as a creative person, where you have a general reluctance towards the thing and you don't know why? And is it super simple to do? Right? We did a similar one recently with like making images with tools that you talked yourself out of using. It's the same principle, right? I'm not. We just talked about this in the Lean's Heart Labs. I'm like, I have this gigantic story where I said I'm not an artist, I'm a cartoonist, so I don't use proper art tools. I don't use paintbrushes. I don't use pastels. Right? And then I did, and I was like, oh, this is just like drawing. Why did I talk myself out of ever using these things?
I love it. And that's it, because this is a prompt that can lead to interesting experience. And,
Yeah.
How great is that? And that's one of the strengths of this, the 2-minute practice as a skill. And it'll help us discover, and it's not too expensive to do that learning. So I'm completely sold. And I
Okay.
just, they're so clever. Selfies. I love it. Not approachable. Mm, 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 mm.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that my experience as a teaching artist has borne fruit again in this project. So okay. Well, is there anything left to say about it? Is there any like? Oh, I guess what would be nice to have something to take your picture with. Not everybody has fancy cell phones. Do you have a webcam on your tablet or your computer? If you're listening to us on a device right now or watching us on a device, the odds are there's some kind of camera someplace. If not, gosh, how would you get easy access to a camera?
If let's see, how would you get easy access to a camera? It's in and have well, so you have if you're that super stuck, you could. I mean, you can ask a friend. Chances are someone in your network has some range of, new or old technology that will have a camera in it, right? Tablets, Chromebooks, obviously laptops, what have you. I mean, there, and then of course there, mobile devices of all kinds. There's a lot of availability there. I mean, it's, if I were to try to like hack it for free, the thing that came to mind would be, are there any sort of parks or nature things that have like a camera observation that you could go mug in front of, right? And then go to the web page and get the thing, go ahead and save the image that you were able to show up in.
Okay, there we go. It's a bit of a workaround, but yes, it can be. Yeah, that's my only thing. As I'm just trying to think of like, okay, accessibility issues here. So that would be one way of getting around it. But again,
given the stats and like, how ubiquitous devices with cameras on it, I think we're pretty safe.
Yeah.
And there's always the idea of just practice along with what feels right to you to practice. If this isn't a fit for any reason.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Rob, I think we got it. So we're off to do the 2-minute practice for the next 2 weeks. So I guess I'll play the music and say, let's all try taking some selfies. And remember, 2 minutes is a findable amount of time. Play along with our chosen practice or create your own.
Well, you can choose your practice. Once you have it, just set that timer for 2 minutes, and you can comment and share if you wish to make it more social, but not too social. You can join the Lean Into Art Discord, and that's at leanintoart.com/Discord for a quick link to get you there. And the challenges_quest channel is the perfect place for this kind of thing. Practice.
And we'll be back in another 2-minute practice in 2 weeks. Until then, I've been Jerzy Drozd of leanintoart.com and rss.jdrozd.com for everything I make.
Oh, awesome. And I am Rob Stenzinger, also from Lean Into Art. And you can find other stuff I make and write at interactive-storyteller.com.
Okay, bye.